Welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happenings Here. Whatever. Here is sort of important. It's sort of related to this subject even. Which, one of the subjects. Comments. Maybe. Not very good comments, actually. Perspective. It's just more about this failure to communicate. Because here we are living in this same world. Same basic things, birds make this noise, sound, we call it. It can be pleasant or unpleasant depending on perspective and all that crap. We can sort of understand some of our differences. Some people like sponge cake, some people like cake that isn't spongy, whatever. But, getting the big things wrong, there's a controlling God thingy, whatever, spirit, universe thing, versus, oh, that sounds like a silly story, like the Three Pigs or something. Come on. So it's almost more implausible. How do you communicate with people who have such diversity? And, we're not really arguing about what color Jell-O is the best. We're, arguing about things that are... there just shouldn't be an argument. I mean, which way do things fall with gravity? It's that way. Really shouldn't be any people arguing it's this way, and we're just, oh, the Earth is moving up, and no, it isn't. The chalk moved down. The Earth didn't move up and crash into it. Come on, that's silly. Anyway, these are things. Saying, now you really shouldn't have to argue about that. So, like the imposition argument is so obvious, in my opinion, that imposing, risky stuff is not a good idea. You don't do that to other people. You don't impose risk on them. It's kind of a silly thing to do. Stupid, don't do it. Bad. And that's really the whole story of life, is that it really isn't about the best case scenario. It's really about the worst case scenario, because if you got rid of the best case, you got rid of the worst case, the middle case, who cares? But it's that worst case and the best case that's where the real conflict is. People think the best case is worth it. Somehow it's worth the worst case. And I shouldn't even have to explain this stuff, that no, the best case is still sort of nothing case. I mean, it's all about what you lose. It's not about what you gain. I mean, success in life is not being a failure more than succeeding. The succeeding part is just sort of a, a consequence of not fucking up, not failing. But anyway, it can be understood that way, just as every pull can be understood as a push in the physics realm. But anyway, so I mean, the facts are all the same for all of us. We really shouldn't be this divergent. So speaking of imposers, so we'll get to one of the subjects in the comments. One that left a comment to this idiotic video. So, a person with the screen name for the gazillionth time, which I think is the Cowboy, posts a link to this piece of shit, this Quintucca fucker. Who, realistically we should, if somebody knows his real name, we should just make it public, right? Because as soon as anybody knows it, somebody can just tell me, and, oh, I know it. And because I know it, therefore I can tell you what his name is. And we can call him by his real name. And then maybe I can post some pictures. Maybe somebody get a picture. We can Google his address, and, we'll get his address, and we'll Google it, and get his picture of his house, and we'll post that. I mean, this is what people have done to me, and I just made the statement to one of these imposers that, well, if this is what you advocate for, if this is how you argue, is by showing a picture of my house, then why shouldn't we argue with you by showing a picture of your house then? Isn't that just being a fair cop? Isn't that playing the game fair? So if you want to call me by my real name in a comment section, why shouldn't I call you by your real name in the comment section, for fuck's sake? That's it's only fair, right? What the fuck kind of idiotic game are you playing? So anyway, this doxing thing for me started back in the virtual Holocaust days, you know, decade ago. You know, and back then to have a website, you had to post a real name, okay, to own the website, because legally there had to be a way to sue you for the content you put on the site. So obviously they had to have a database that people could access to find out who's responsible for the website. Now, I suppose I could have posted a fake name and broke the law, but I didn't. And so this asshole, because I had a website, decided that he's going to post my name because now it's public information and therefore he's allowed to do it. Well, sure. I guess you can make that argument, but the point isn't whether you're allowed to do it, whether strictly legally you're allowed to do it. The question is, what kind of asshole does that? I mean, for what purpose would it serve? For what use but to hurt somebody, to make them more vulnerable, to exercise your right to control them, you know, and that's all this asshole wants is control. He's a control freak. Okay, he doesn't like something in the world, he has to call the cops, and that's what he's done. And it's clear he did it to Conference Report. He was the only one who went into a complete rag. Okay, when Conference Report did rag art. I mean, literally female rag art. Oh, and it just offended him to terribly. All of a sudden, you know, Conference Report's getting heat from the institution he worked for. Clearly, this asshole did this shit. There's nobody else responsible, and it's just because he wants to control what other people are allowed to do, what they're allowed to say. And it's a way of controlling them. Obviously, if you make it too expensive to be on the internet, in the sense that these people want to liberate, you know, a bunch of these people that have all of these hostilities. So yeah, I've had the cops at my house because of people like him 3 times to inquire about some crime I have not committed, but that they've been told I've committed. You know, and so what other purpose do the cops coming to my house have but to tell me I'm not allowed to do this? I'm not allowed to be on the internet and express my opinions about anything because we will harass you. And then if we can find out who else we can harass, your neighbors and all that kind of stuff, we'll harass them to harass you. And this is somehow a legitimate price you should have to pay to voice opinions on the internet. They should be anonymous, though. They should be protected. So YouTube protects them. It allows all these fake accounts. They can just constantly make them. Forces me to give a legitimate phone number, but somehow they allow them to give a bunch of illegitimate ones, clearly. And then they hid all the information you could get about what comments they were making in different places, right? In the old YouTube, you used to be able to search the comments. And you could even search on Google, right? So this is a kind of a Google policy, right? That we're not going to show you the internet. And everybody's okay with that, right? The irony of it is just so thick. And you're saying, how do people think this is a good idea to let this monopoly run search when things like the comments section on YouTube videos isn't searchable? I mean, why isn't it? It was on the old internet, the old clunky, less efficient, less bandwidth, less everything internet. You could do it, and now you can't. And that's a Google policy of not showing you the real internet, not making the real internet accessible. I mean, and why do we think that's a good idea? Clearly, if there was a active competition in the searching realm, none of that would happen, because obviously people would go to the search engine that gives them the most, not the search engine that controls and gives them the least, gives them what they want to give them. So this wouldn't even be an issue. You know, if we were back in the Alta Vista, Yahoo, all these people having independent search engines. Understand that Yahoo might still exist, but it doesn't have its own search mechanism. You know, they just buy it from Google. So, you know, this is, you know, it's not a good thing, the world we're existing in. You know, people think that stupid quack quack duck thing is some kind of real search engine. Yeah, no, it's not a real search engine. It just takes Microsoft. It says, what does Microsoft and Google say the internet is? It's, you know, it's crap. So, you know, all they did is take the ads out. You know, that's all. But anyway, So, I mean, it's just, why would anybody be an advocate for using these kind of tactics? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. And why would they imply that somebody else is a hypocrite because they say, well, you guys should get what you deserve? If these are tactics you think they're legitimate somehow, that somehow it matters what my real name is to any of this conversation on the internet, then why don't you just play by the same rules and tell me your real name and where you really live and all that kind of crap? I mean, once I know your name, I can get from public documents your address, and I can get pictures of your house, and maybe I can get a picture of your fat wife or some other kind of crap. And I should, just like you think I should use that against you to intimidate you. And then maybe I'll even excite some, I'll like invite crazy people to my domain, you know, my presence here on YouTube, by making outlandish videos, you know, and I'll do lots of photoshopping and lots of goofy stuff so the real morons show up, and incite them. Because, you know, there's no crazy people in the world, right? I mean, we have institutions that lock crazy people up, right? So they're not a threat. Because that's really the threat, right? I mean, besides having the police at my house 3 times, I've had people randomly show up, you know, which is, you know, they're obviously not quite got their wheels on the ground to be doing that kind of horse shit. And these are people just incited by, you know, all this drama you people wish to create. Okay, it's not about any of the conversations. It's not about the philosophy. It's just about the drama, the emotions. Okay, so you're inciting psychopaths to feel engaged and empowered. So it's on you, assholes. I made a comment to Cato the Wiser because he's posting comments on troll videos. And, you know, right there in the comments section, again, is my name posted for no good reason. The frickin' icons are crap. You know, one of the icons was clearly a picture of my house, which doesn't belong as an icon to a video. And so I'm just saying, well, what? You endorse these tactics? This is how the internet should be for you? You think you're winning the philosophical argument by just basically saying, you know, keep talking and we'll get even more. We'll keep trying to change the subject, okay, and make the subject your life and your personal safety even. For what? So it's about intent. You know, I think most intelligent people would say, if we could know intent, that would be what we punish. Okay, it's people's intentions, right? I mean, there's no point in having a silly law like, well, you know, you shoot at somebody and you don't kill them, it's a different crime than you shoot at them and you kill them. I mean, that's kind of silly. And we know it's these people's intent. It's not their intent to win a fair fight. It's their intent to extort. They're mobsters, you know, little mobsters saying, I can, you know, suggest, hey, maybe I can burn your house down. Maybe you want to buy some insurance, but your house might burn down. But that's all that. That's the reason why they go personal. That's the reason why they do this shit, is so they can intimidate you out of your freedom to speak. They're just basically saying, I don't like this free shit, okay? I don't like the fact that I have to compete with your ideas, and I instead am going to try to shut you up. And that's all it's for. It doesn't serve any other purpose. There's no context necessary. This personal life examination thing. And if you think that is a context that's necessary, that somebody needs to know my life history and where I live and all this crap, then why aren't you playing by the same game? Because you're making comments, you're making assertions. Why shouldn't we be able to inspect your life and inspect that you see if you're a hypocrite? I mean, it's just such a double standard you have for behavior. You're saying that the people who unfortunately have, you know, they filed a lawsuit, let's say, to defend their rights, and their name's in a lawsuit, that somehow that means, okay, I can take advantage of that. And so somehow we have to so sequester and live such a limited life to protect our identity from people like you. And it's horse shit. You're not outing me for some crimes. You're not outing me for anything. You're outing me merely for the purpose of saying, look, I have control. I can fuck with your life. That's it. You fucking piece of shit. I mean, just an amazing piece of shit. And you know, it's all the fact that this isn't taken seriously anymore, and it's just sad and tragic that YouTube doesn't give a shit. You know, it's just pretending to police, but it's this, you know, it's as duplicitous as the copyright law, you know, that basically presumes guilt. You're guilty of stealing, and you have to prove you're innocent before you're allowed to do what you're supposed to be allowed by law, which is to use content until somebody can demonstrate you violated their copyright. They're supposed to sue you. That's supposed to be the law. You're not supposed to be pre-censored. And, you know, law doesn't matter. Real right rules don't matter. It's just it's terrible pile of shit. It's just despicable humans. But anyway, so you're just saying how bizarre is it that this asshole actually thinks he has some defense for using my name? Like my name has anything to do with anything. It doesn't have anything to do with a single one of the arguments I make in these videos. It doesn't have anything to do with anything. Where I live, how is that important? I mean, it's just amazing. And it does, you know, like I said, if I was still living by myself, I wouldn't care. I didn't care before. I mean, it's not a big deal. Who cares? You know, it's just an harassment. You know, it's mosquito bites. Okay, I can live with that. Who cares? But yeah, no, now I'm stuck because yeah, there are other people more connected, and they're going to try to force my life on the internet to bleed into these other people, try to make victims out of them, and you know, so yeah, it is intimidating. I don't make videos outside. I don't make walk and talks. I don't do any of that because I can't afford to just give it away. I can't afford to give too much information away because of these lunatics, what they'll do. And like I said, not so much what they'll do to me, but they'll do to neighbors and what they'll do to other people connected. I don't want to be an imposer. I don't want to impose my inner life on other people. But they'll force me to. You know, that's what their effort, that's what their ambition is to make me have to pay for it. You know, so I mean, they obviously hate the whole idea of a fair fight and freedoms and all that kind of crap. They want control, and they want to exercise control. And that's all there is. There's nothing more complicated here. They can't win an argument in a fair, rational manner. They have to attempt to win it in any kind of irrational and cheap, shitty way possible. And then win it by just, you know, ending it. Forcing somebody else to say it's too expensive to open my mouth. Because some asshole is going to do this horse shit. So anyway. Yeah, but you know, if I suggest to people this guy should be banned, you know, you should not be playing with him. If he's commenting on your videos, fuck him. Alright? You know. Because he's an asshole defending asshole behavior. Yeah. Fuck. Anyway. I mean, he wants to impose accountability on us, but he doesn't want to be it imposed on him. Just a despicable double standard. Alright, so enough of that. People. Alright, so it's weird these Indonesia videos get comments, but they're all so fucking irrelevant. You know, I mean, the subject is, you know, you don't, you know, the punishment has to fit the crime kind of thing. And let's say you're Indonesia and you know, you have this, there's no point in thinking it's a sacred violation of some sacred law if somebody smokes marijuana. Now, you can say it's a violation of your social order, and understand it as the difference between, you know, misdemeanors and federal offenses or something. Okay, it's not a violation of some sacred law, you know, of safety and peace and all, you know, whatever value you could come up with. And so it's the kind of thing they could, you know, and it's really about the foreigners, right? They don't impose the same laws on their domestic population. So why not just write it down in a contract. If you're caught with marijuana, we'll fine you $10,000, right? So you have to have $10,000 to get the fuck out of the country again. or something. Just make it that overt and simple. Okay, why play this game? Because I'm just saying, they killed a person, and that's the subject, and these assholes can't stay on the fucking subject. It's just amazing. The whole video is about a country with idiotic definitions of a moral crime. Yeah, and that's it. There's really nothing else going on. So Gary, it's all right. See, first name, who cares? All right. But when you start publishing my whole name, I mean, you're just giving people power. So don't give them power. Obviously, people who have evil intentions. Nobody with a good intention is going to use my name. Okay, it's not going to happen. It's just going to be people with bad intentions. Meditate and you will realize that you are connected to the source. So, I mean, this is some idiot who thinks the Matrix is is reality. What a fucking idiot. Of course you are. ... You are part of it. So what? I mean, this is just so stupid. Part of it, how? I'm right now made out of atoms that were at one time a big pile of brontosaurus shit. You know, I mean, there's atoms that have been all kinds of places. Wow, big deal. How the fuck does that mean a damn thing? Oh, that's right, it doesn't mean a damn thing. You know, these people are just so fucking crazy. And whatever that is, you cannot understand. Well, you can't even understand that you're supposed to type words. You know, this fucking whatever Morse code you want to turn language into. But anyway, it's too big for human mind. And so then he adds, try this exercise. I'm not my body. Inhale. I'm not my mind. Exhale. Why should I try it? What evidence do we have that this Hans guy has any clue? Like he is in any kind of position to tell anybody else how to live. Oh, he has no content. He has nothing. He has nothing. But he's going to tell other people, look how well I'm doing. No. But anyway, just too stupid. I mean, obviously we're all, you know, I said before, the whole game you're playing is inside your own head. I mean, all the... all the evil, all the good, all the bad, all the reactions, the actions, it's all to an image in your head. You're not reacting to reality as it is. You're really just reacting to a perception of reality. And that there are times when you have to control, you know, that reality. You have to pretend the thing that seems real, okay, it is a real image you're seeing, something bad happening. You know that your physiological reaction might just get in your way instead of helping you. Like if you were a dumb caveman, yes, it worked to just panic. Okay, panic worked. But for more sophisticated organism that can understand the fact that there's strategy involved, and you know there's all kinds of tricks you can play to, you know, mitigate a circumstance, that there isn't just two choices, fight and flight. There's this third, more complex choice where you go get your sword and then fight, you know, that kind of thing. So it's not as, you know, so it's all a head game, and you know the trick is playing that game, being able to understand how you can control some of your physiological reactions and prevent yourself from panicking or getting too angry or all of that crap. And you know that if you want to teach people how to do that, great. I've sort of found it's tough, and it's especially tough to get rid of stuff you've had for 50 or 60 years. Those are really hard to get rid of, those bad habits. But yes, they're all just habits, and in some sense you can retrain your physiology. But conditioning isn't a pleasant process, reconditioning. So you could argue, you know, it's the movie A Clockwork Orange has a nice scene of reconditioning, you know, where they force the guy's eyes open and force, you know, they flood him with imagery and sensations, and try to make these connections by forcing him to feel sick and feel good, you know. So you're reconditioning your associations. But that's a very unpleasant process, and probably not going to get there through some passive meditation. It's probably not going to do it. Not going to be enough of a reinforcement of the change in your physiological or your innate reactions. Some people would call those instincts. They're not really instincts, though. I don't think we don't have too many instincts. Spiders and snakes maybe, but you know, really not too much. All right. What the fuck is this shit? Pyro acts like a 14-year-old boy, complete with disregard for morality. It's really bizarre. Well, Pyro has his little, you know, fantasy that reality is still too hidden from us in all of the confusing clouds, and we can't see it. You know, when no, it's pretty obvious, and evolution's a big part of that. And he thinks evolution is some little fun ride. You know, he thinks in the principle it's not what it is, which is kill millions to improve one, you know, strain. You know, so it's the proportions of the failure are spectacular in the sense that evolution is promising Disneyland. You know, it's promising. It's getting there, okay, by this lottery system, you know, where you put, you know, 10,000 short straws in pockets and put one long straw and just keep one winner and 10,000 losers, to somehow make your progress through time, when all you really do is get more and more complicated. You don't necessarily get any better. You just kind of keep changing the balance between, you know, your suit of armor and the length of the arrow, you know, and the balance between those things just keeps changing, and so you change what you look like to fight the world, but the changes are just that. They're just superficial changes. The battle doesn't change any. The tug of war doesn't change any. You're just changing tactics. Again, the gladiators are either getting shorter or taller, but they're not really getting anything else. They're just modifying their size to their adversary. As their adversary gets bigger, it might be an advantage to get smaller, you know, and vice versa. So you have a trick. Okay, mostly because women's... Oh, now this is a women's subject. Well, I guess I could read some of this then. Consent is just a legal loophole for perps. It's there mostly because women's consent to penis-vagina is not legitimate under patriarchy. I mean, this whole subject gets a little bit, you know, messy, but I mean, clearly, I think what has to change is that, you know, the role playing. So, I mean, you got to quit emphasizing that that women are to be highly prized for their appearance. It is just a fact, okay, that, you know, men are turned on, okay, by these physical things, these physical messages, and women are less so. And therefore, that's the underlying problem, is that they don't have the same incentives and the same, not only just biological incentives. I mean, the response mechanisms are sort of innately different. They have, but you know, that's changing now. I mean, yeah, you know, the world is getting kind of weird in terms of even that physical thing isn't playing the same role it was. I mean, men are less manly, you know, and you know, I don't know if the women are going the other way. You know, it's just everybody's getting to be a poofer, but whatever. You know, I don't mean anything. I'm just saying that that's the fundamental conflict, and then the fact that men had power for hundreds of years over women, in the sense that women weren't able to just go out and earn their respectability in the world by some other means than their appearance. And clearly that's changed, so there's more opportunity for that. And but it's still a biological, you're still fighting the biology. So that's always going to be a problem. And, as the years have passed, I've gained some perspective on this, in the sense that, I always attempted to tie some sort of sincere emotion to the act of sex. But it really was just a contrivance, because, yes, it really was, the physical thing was the dominating force, and it really wasn't about loving somebody. It was really about loving somebody. It was more about some love with this idea of whatever beauty would be called, and somehow you want to fuck it, which is seems kind of rude, but anyway, and that mechanical function is really hard in a way to tie to anything real, in terms of any sincere emotional respect or anything deeper. And that people are really just looking for something in between, so they're compromising these two things. This idea, I have to live with somebody, so I have to have something in common, and but it's got to somehow trigger these, this mechanism that says, I want this, I have a physical passion. And so, I don't know. Yeah, it's all very messy and complicated, frankly. I mean, it's simple, but the problem is it's not simply fixed. The fact that men and women aren't in it for the same thing, in terms of how they get off, is a problem. Okay. Let's see. Girls are groomed for sex from birth. Well, I don't know if they're groomed for sex. They're groomed to be possessed. They're in a competition for the attention of males, and that's the problem. And men are likewise. But again, attention from females comes with there's lots of different ways to trigger women. Humor, all kinds of, money, lots of, success, power, lots of things that trigger, where men are kind of, again, pretty superficial. Alright, let's see. You couldn't leave him alone. Now he has more exposure, so I don't know what this complaint is about, but whatever, fuck you. Voted off the island for good. Whatever, I don't even know what the fuck that shit could mean. I'm very mentally well today. It's not an interesting comment. I'm sorry. Not useful. Don't give a fuck. I think it's better. I'm very mentally well today. If you're walking around saying that, yeah, you're probably not so well. Because it's retarded. Alright. Damn, Gary looks old. Some sort of, I don't know what kind of face that is. A little emoticon. Yeah, well, I am old. 60 fucking years old. And compared to what? I mean, I really, maybe I have a very false impression of what 60-year-old men look like. But if I was to take like 100 average 60-year-old male pictures and then put mine in the middle of it, you really think I look worse? I don't know. Fuck you. He has way more frowning in his face, like he has a way of frowning his face like he look a sip of vinegar. Took. Eyes are going bad too. Yeah, that is, I'm sort of, I am sort of a primitive. I had really huge canine teeth, and so maybe I'm a bit of a primitive. So I still have all those little facial things happening. Stuff can move around, especially my forehead. My forehead is, these eyebrows move so easily. I didn't have any, most of my existence, so you couldn't tell. But so yeah, obviously I wrinkle fairly easy. But whatever, who cares? just a fact of life. I don't like it, but that's when you get old. That's it's just a fact. But I mean, it is kind of silly, I think, you know, to say I look old. I mean, compared to what? I mean, if your expectation, if I was supposed to be 40, yeah, I don't look 40 anymore. Oh, anyway, oh my God, this is too good, blah, blah, blah. Okay, what is this? Isn't the point what the Black Lives Matter protests, I don't know why that came up, are about is there is no common respect when liberties and punishment are vastly different between rural and urban areas, when you can play around with any kind of weapon. Well, yeah, it's you know, the nuances and the complexities of this subject. I don't think this is about race. As much as people want to make it race, it's not really about race. There's always going to be some difference, right? I mean, black and white are two different colors, so that's kind of obvious. But I could always go back to like the Sidney Poitier, you know, representation of a black man. Now, if every black person was Sidney Poitier, yeah, they all fit in pretty good, right? What's the, you know, there's not going to be any cultural problems, right? I mean, he's going to drink tea, he's going to do this, he's going to, you know, he's going to have all these civil and polite mannerisms, he's going to be, you know, not going to be any problem. So we know this is more about a culture thing, you know, white culture versus black culture, because blacks, you would say, kind of logically, had to develop their own and wanted their own, and wanted an identity that was better than what Whitey gave them. And but they're now competing cultures, right? Because now they don't have anything in common. The language is even almost, it's almost, you know, Black English is almost not English anymore. I mean, it's almost, what the hell did you say? What? You know, you just can't understand it. And in a lot of ways, the habits are the same way. They're just kind of loud and rude, and you know, all that kind of crap. And I'm just saying, by white culture, you know, that, you know, whitey's living in a world where you take your shoes off to walk in the house, you do this, you do, you know, all this bullshit. And the black culture says, nah, you know, I ain't gonna bother with that crap. And so that's what the real driving wedge is now, in my opinion. And obviously the poverty thing. So the other one is just poverty. Poverty breeds a certain kind of, you know, the fact is you're going to end up probably getting fucked by the environment as a kid. You're going to learn how to cut corners and steal cars and do this and do that. And all that shit's not going to be good for your social progress. Okay, you're not going to be some productive, constructive member of society that, you know, anybody has any good reason to feel much regard for. You know, and then it's the whole cop thing, you know. I mean, way undertrained, way over-empowered. You know, okay, the whole, you know, cops are members of more than one union. You know, they have like local union, and then their big union, and then their master union. You know, so it's preposterous. And they have way too many rights and all that kind of stuff, and all that has to be broken because they're basically unaccountable and all that kind of crap, and that's really bad. And they're really getting way overpaid because they really don't want what the higher pay would involve, which is actually being at risk. You know, actually waiting for somebody to threaten them before they decide to shoot them dead. You know, and even the fact that they figure the object is to kill rather than to stop, and you know, they should have different weapons for different purposes, and they can't even get that part right. So, you know, when somebody's running away, they should have a runaway gun, which, you know, really is just to stop the guy from running. You know, so you just need to penetrate the body a little bit to stop somebody from running effectively. You know, come on. You don't need a exploding, you know, blah 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 bullet. But anyway, there's lots of problems. But I mean, it's, you know, to me, it just, the two sides, the right and the left, just keep inciting, you know, such a bad image of each other in each other's eyes that there's just no point. They're just, fueling the fire, right? They're just going to make it worse, you know, by saying it's, one side saying it's all on them, and the other side saying, no, it's all on them. You know, that's not going to work. It's not going to get you anywhere in the future. And clearly the underlying incompatibility has to be recognized. I mean, if, you know, if people think this is going to work where everybody speaks different languages, I'm telling you, it's not going to work. Okay, you're not going to get a civilization out of that. Not going to happen. Anyway, so whatever. Politics. You talk about logic as if you're a master. Well, I guess if you're going to do something, you should try to do it right. Okay, what? If I ride a bicycle, I ride it as if I'm a master? Well, I suppose I try to. I mean, that's how you should be, trying to do it right. So, yeah, I'm trying to do it right. I mean, I don't know. Does that mean I talk about it as if I'm a master? In what way have I masterized? Do I start every video by saying I am the authority and I'm much better than all of you people? I mean, it is a kind of an obvious, you know, conclusion when I read the comments and say, well, boy, that's a pretty dumb comment. But anyway, okay, fine. Okay, that's your impression. I think I'm offering opinions as a competent speaker, and it's not any more than that. I don't think I'm speaking. I'm not here. I don't call this a guru channel. I never listed this as any of that kind of stuff. I never promoted myself as any of that kind of shit. I'm just making arguments. So this seems like a pretty big, your perceptual twist on something pretty simple. I speak English, and I have thoughts, and I have done some mechanical dissection of things, and that's all I'm doing, is expressing the consequences of that. You know, how, I guess I'm just saying, what are the errors of me pretending to have authority? Where are those authority errors? Anyway, now what could be the solution following your logic? Question mark. So the logic is that you don't torture somebody to make somebody else happy. So it's like you, I mean, what's the comparison? Yeah, you don't starve someone to feed somebody. You know, I mean, you just don't accept the prices for something that has value. If you destroy it, you know, if I burn as much oil as I pump out of the ground, what's the point? You know what I mean? Burn it and waste it. Okay, in the end of all life, no, that's just silly. So the end of all life, no, that's just silly. So I don't, you know, I think it's silly to think life is anything but a mold growing on the surface of something. It's just a condition, and once the condition has a beginning, and the condition will have an end in this universe. And so you think that anything like the same kind of biological history of evolution is going to take place somewhere. Well, there's no evidence in the universe that anybody's making any sound. So I don't think you're going to have, I don't think your logic makes any sense. You're saying I must believe that life is indestructible. Well, that's silly. And that it constantly reoccurs. Well, I think that's also silly. Not logical at all. How about taking your own and everyone that cares about you and their lives, taking your own and everyone that cares about you and their lives, let's face it, oh, this will be totally illogical. So I should kill myself, but first kill everybody who cares about me, because somehow that will prove I'm right, that life is just a bacterial infection, so to speak, on the surface of the earth. It can accomplish nothing. It serves no purpose. It heals no wound the universe had. It does nothing. It feeds nothing. It protects nothing. There's no rabbit on some other planet that is somehow given better lettuce because humans exist on Earth. Okay, anyway, face it, wouldn't want anyone suffering through those silly emotions. So again, they are silly, frankly. Okay, so most of our grief type emotions are a little bit silly, and they're usually just selfish, based on some sort of personal missing thing, and sometimes based on something like the horror of it, the empathy, where it's just a tragic experience to witness somebody else being destroyed. Okay, I haven't been back to this channel in a while for obvious reasons. I don't know, obvious to who, but you seem to be stuck. Well, fuck you. This blog is about as identical as all the rest, so then why are you paying any attention at all? I mean, if there's a whole bunch of it out there, then why are you bothering with me? What's the point in life with all this suffering? Well, the question is, what's the point even without suffering? There's no point to it, okay? It's not going to do anything. It's not going to make the universe a better place. Okay, and therefore let's enlighten all those brain-dead people who believe it's worth the suffering. Well, the point is if it was their suffering, I'd say it was worth it. Fine, you want to torture yourself for eternity? Go right ahead, okay? I can't stop you. You have this perception that it's fun. Some sort of mental taste mechanism that nail in the eye is a good time for you. Okay, go ahead and pay the price. Personally, the point is do you have a right to impose your values on other people and tell them they're having a good time when they're telling you overtly, I'm not having a good time? Okay, I mean, the ball has started rolling, and once it's rolling, you're given this choice of stopping it, but there's nothing going to be fun about stopping it. There's nothing but negatives associated with stopping it in terms of the short-term negatives, because there's stopping it is against the system, against the mechanism. And so you're giving somebody this catch. You've put a short straw in their pocket, and you've given them a choice of having another short straw put in their pocket to get the hell out of the first short straw. Pay more to get out. You haven't made an exit sign that has any kind of, that means exit. Okay? It means pay more money. It's an exit fee. You have to pay an exit fee. So you force somebody in, and then force them to pay just the existing fees of having to go through your maturation and all the pains of your adolescence and all these other nasty bits. And then they get to a point where they can figure out, well, this was sort of a stupid ride. How the fuck did I get on this dumbass ride? And then you're going to charge them to get off. And then you're going to say you're being, oh no, that's a fair system. That's a good deal. I mean, if you're so stupid that you can't even admit, no, that would be better if we had a freer system, a better system of choice. Alright, anyway, all this suffering, and therefore let's enlighten all those brain-dead people who believe that it's worth the suffering. Well, and these are people who haven't died yet, so they're saying dying is all part of the fun project, and that no matter how bad their death is, because it could be almost, it can go really, really wrong before you're actually dead, it's a good deal. In spite of how bad it'll be, even if it takes you years to die, it'll be worth it. Okay, imbeciles right. The only logical conclusion, not mine, even those with your philosophy have worth, I don't even know what that means, is if the game's rigged and not worth playing. It's not even that it's rigged. It's just stupid. That's all. Unintelligent design. I mean, it's not a rigged game. It's just a game based on you're not going to gain anything. Create a need, partially satisfy it. Create a need, partially satisfy it. Make a mess, partially clean it up. Make a mess, partially clean it up. That doesn't make any sense. It's sort of like the energy equation, right? I mean, that's the whole problem with energy. You can't just store it somewhere and it stays all stored and it's perfectly efficient to get it out of storage. There's all these losses associated with it. You know, just not a good system. You're always losing ground. You're not gaining any. All right. Then surely not playing is the answer. Yeah, that's right. And the real question is do you, in this atmosphere of facts, do you have any reason to be confident in your philosophy that says, I know it's worth torturing them for it? My happiness is surely so wonderful a thing that I will create the monsters, the Frankensteins that go bad. So because I made some good Frankensteins that were all happy and, you know, they had balloons and they had pretty faces and they were all happy, I can justify the Frankenstein monsters who aren't going to do any of those things and they're going to be miserable. And you wish to impose that, and you're so confident in your silly little delusions about accomplishments and happiness being valuable that you're willing to impose torture. Because that's what the price is. That's what the price of this pro-life philosophy is that if you're pro-life, you're pro-torture. Because you can't take the torture out of it. You're never going to be creating your life in any kind of environment that gives you any assurance against the monstrosities. The failures will be, you know, injected. Unless, of course, your logical conclusion is to the end all life. Yes, that's what the logical conclusion is. Whatever that means. Pray, intentional pun, tell where your logic concludes. I mean, what the fuck? I mean, it's weird how, you know, this is the problem, right? You know, people don't speak common language. What the hell was that? I'm sure hell isn't any value either, but so, whatever. I fucking hate the DJ here. It's so fucking annoying, so that's, I don't know, that's more Indonesia stuff. Alright, so this is the, for the gazillionth time, who I think is the cowboy, right? So posting a link to the rubbish Quintucka fucking asshole, and, you know, it's just so bad. Oh yes, I should just click this and say, fuck off. Alright. It's especially chilling considering that evolution connected a lot of barely or non-sentient material into a sentient brain. I don't know how that makes much sense. The real, you know, one of the simple arguments you can just make about how fucked up the whole conversation is this inability to recognize how substantially different from a living thing we actually are. That we're actually made of living things. That the whole construct of our brain is made out of a community of cells doing something with electricity. You know, it's electricity traveling through living cells that is creating the whole thing that we call our life consciousness. But it really isn't. You know, we're made of cells. The cells are alive. We're something else. So it's, you know, it's the difference between brick and building. And they're really different things. And, you know, the fact that people haven't even made that leap. I mean, the weird part is you know, the DNA is the common thread between the two. You know, both the cell and the organism is being constructed by the same DNA, the same little blueprint molecule. But again, living things are really all robots. They're all unsentient pieces of shit. Okay, they're all just cells. Cells aren't thinking and feeling and doing any of this crap. So it's just silly to not understand that it's the composite. The bricks are dead. The building is alive. Alright. Okay, it's especially chilling considering that evolution connected a lot of barely sentient material into sentient brain. This demonstrates that it may be possible for evolution to make an even more horrific state of sentience. Well, clearly that we probably already have horrific states of sentience on Earth right now. I mean, I've sort of brought up before that, nature doesn't have too much incentive to worry about, say, a caterpillar. So a caterpillar eats leaves, does all this stuff. And feels probably good and bad. Irritation is a real thing in their world to prevent harm and all that stuff. They can learn how to eat leaves better and do all this kind of stuff. And anyway, and then they go through this metamorphosis where their whole body gets torn to pieces and rearranged. Now you could argue that nature doesn't provide any morphine. Nature doesn't shoot it up with morphine before it starts ripping it to pieces, and that it could in that process be going through some pretty excruciating pain, and nature wouldn't give a shit. And so if we were, if that was part of our biological history, it really could be a fact that nature would put us through a very extreme trauma to maturate us. Now we get a little taste of it in that, you do get something called growing pains when you're a kid. We have some maturating suffering, but it's pretty minimal, because it's not dramatic. It's over a long period of time and all that kind of crap. But I'm just saying, once you're stuck in a cocoon, why would it care whether you're suffering or not? It really wouldn't. Ugh, hit the cord again. So that's the insidious part. Is that it could be going on right now, and you're just unaware of the organisms that are going through pretty violent, horrible torture. And since the bloodbath of evolution never takes a day off, arguably we may still be in the process of evolving the next stage of sentience. Well, this idea that there are stages, is just presumptive, that there's really anywhere to go. I would argue that once you have this logical device, you're in big trouble. Because it won't become silly. Okay, so I mean, if you were to make an AI, the AI isn't going to become ignorant. It's going to become more aware, and the more aware it is, the more it knows the game is unwinnable or something. It's like tic-tac-toe. It only fools the imbeciles, right? You have to be pretty stupid not to know the trick. That all you need to do is go first and you win every time. Can't lose if you do it right. So it's useless as a contest or a game or any of that kind of crap. So there's nowhere for this to go except in collecting information, processing it rationally, and being done with it. Now you could argue that you get to some sentience that's completely disconnected from any kind of reward and punishment, and therefore disconnected from any improvement in behavior and all that kind of stuff. But we're not even evolving sentience anymore, because we're not evolving anymore. The choices you make in your life have so little to do with your success and failure. How to say that? What you find pleasurable has so little to do with success and failure that there's no evolution. I mean, the very fact that we're born, just like I said, so fucking helpless and so programmable. It's really just about memes. It's just about silly fables being indoctrinated into. There's nothing else. The Borg isn't built out of physical fences. It's built out of the fences of making brains illogical. Anyway, from an anti-nihilist perspective, the solution seems to clearly be to stop creating suffering by stop creating new sentience for evolution to chew up. However, there are some smart people like Tom Campbell, fuck you, or Ray who cares, have reached the opposite conclusion. Well, they're not very smart then. They see the trend and think the trend is unstoppable and will eventually fulfill their theistic beliefs. Well, They're idiots. Oh, so they have an idiotic understanding of reality, and yet you're saying, and then they have some really more idiotic conclusions. I mean, their premises are idiotic. Why would I think their conclusions aren't idiotic? Anyway, evolution creates the God described in the Abrahamic religions. Oh, fuck you. This is just silly. So from their perspective, they believe evolution is summoning God to earth, and hence everything possible should be done to help summon God sooner rather than later. And you're saying I should entertain this as anything but a three-pig silly story? Anyway, I think this is a horrific conclusion because because the form of evolution that is currently happening operates at unfathomable rates compared to the millions of years that it took. Oh, this is just silly. I mean, ideas can evolve, can have tremendous speed of complete evolution and change, but those are just ideas. Okay, they're not theoretically evolving. We have plenty of scientific demonstrations of how synthetic chemicals, conditioning, and even brain machine interfaces have been used by humans to intentionally alter the conscious experience. Well, whatever this mush is. Frankly, this is baby talk. So, whatever. Fuck you. Nonsense. What does that have to do with anything? I mean, we're obviously, just a few thousand years ago, we were playing a much simpler game. Okay, we were like the other dumb animals. Even though we had this big giant brain and all that crap, we weren't using it for anything sophisticated. We didn't have language, usable. I mean, 10,000 years ago maybe, many words. And our function was just this survival thing. So it was just about being smart enough to cut grass and do this and cook something that was edible and blah blah blah. Very lowbrow function. And then in the last 300 or 500 years, there have been huge advances in our capacity to build technology to make us see further and see more and understand the whole mechanicalness in the universe and all that kind of crap. And so it's all just about the fact that we have gained knowledge. And again, I'll just make the simple point: once you know 2 + 2 = 4. You just can't force it to be 3 anymore, or 5. It just doesn't work. You can't pretend, realistically. Top video. It really was. I don't know what that means. Ha 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 ha. The ending was great. Well, I don't know. Well, no sound. Well, it's one of the old videos, I guess. You suck. Well, fuck you. That's the Indonesians. They're really very articulate. We are just a bunch of cells reproducing and consuming. Well, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but yeah, sure. Most people don't get it. They walk their dog down the street and feed them bacon. Oh yeah, that was a joke of mine. This video was good. Well, whatever. Definitely progress, and I, for one, appreciate you. You'd stop being so confused if you just accepted the fact that humans have a survival instinct. See, that's the thing. They don't have any survival instinct. No animal has a survival instinct. There's no such thing as a survival instinct. Survival is a big, complex thing. You have to do a whole bunch of things to survive. We have instincts to protect ourselves from harm. Those are instincts. Like I said, the aversion, you could say aversion to snakes is sort of still built into us. There's something about snakes that trigger most people. So yeah, your brain still has a little vestigial thing that says snakes aren't good for anything, stay the fuck away from them. They're more likely to hurt you than help you, so don't hang around with snakes. And spiders likewise. So there's a little bit of trigger there. Okay, but we have so few real instincts that you could, describe as a real instinct. And we certainly don't have any survival instinct. We have an obvious instinct built into the fact that unpleasant is a sensation. It's a negative sensation. It's a repulsive, repugnant, do not have sensation. And then we have the ones that feel good. And we learn what in a sense, those are all being programmed through our maturation. They're not instincts. The functions, it's hard to, hard to say the function of desiring to have sex in the sense of desiring to do the penis thing. I mean, the penis thing is kind of obvious, but we learn how to do that. It's not some innate function. You're not born knowing what to do with it. So, I mean, you're not going to really tell me that you innately knew what your penis was for. Anyway, it's no point. Survival instinct that colors the way they look at everything. Now, you can be just as orgasmic or just as happy about the thought of all the humans being squished by a giant steamroller, not surviving, as you can be about living. I'm sure many people committed suicide feeling quite good about it. So there's no instinct that says you can't feel good about not surviving or not anything. You can feel very good. I could feel very good about losing an Olympic medal by realizing that, that guy has a girlfriend. She's going to all be nice and happy now. They're going to have happier, he won't beat his kids. I could think lots of happy thoughts and make it into a very happy thing. My failure, his success. That's all. Those perspectives are just, again, those are the reactions, the psychological reactions that we can change with our understanding. We can understand a context, and we can find something in the context to be very happy about that's very opposed to our own survival. You have it too. Well, fuck you. You just figured out how to not let it control your thoughts. So he's saying it exactly backwards. Right? The people who are caught up wanting to live are the ones being controlled by some notion, okay, that they're going to win. Okay, that's what they're being controlled by. When in fact they're going to lose. Okay, that will happen. They will take their last little choking breath and not survive. Anyway, there's no other rational explanation for the way people are. So again, there's lots of rational explanations. They're raised by idiots. Idiots have kids, right? I mean, if you have any kind of sense of responsibility and any kind of realistic perspective about just what's in it for you, even from the what's in it for me perspective, it's got to be incredibly frightening to think of this imposition. I mean, the thoughts of just, even if your kid is born, right, just the thought of first, what if it's retarded? What if it's, head's in the wrong, what if, those things scary enough, right? What if it's ugly? Ooh, what if a lot of things, I'd be so guilty. Then you have the whole problems of all the decisions you're going to have to make that are going to decide what kind of basket case this kid's going to be going through the world. Whether it's going to get its arm cut off cutting the grass or something. I mean, all of that shit. So obviously you have to be so stupid to have kids in the first place just because of those daunting impositions on yourself. Let alone the thought of the imposition on the kid. And the fact that you have to start imagining, well, how will it die? Well, I should be able to make it so it can die well. I mean, maybe I can make enough money to give it the resources where it doesn't have to worry, or, I mean, but these are all, any amount of thought would create pause in an individual. And the only thing that makes them capable of doing it is nobody thinks about it. They just do it. They don't think about it. It's like having a wedding, and it's just a little procedure, and this is their life, is these procedures. But they don't give any thought to it. Alright, there's no other rational explanation. People are. They are controlled by a will to live. Well, again, so, no. It's just so stupid. Alright, they have a will to have fun. Okay, and they think they're going to just keep doing that. Okay. That doesn't care about the facts or logic. Somehow you have to figure out a way to break through the mental barrier. The mental barrier is just rational risk aversion. If you don't know that 15 kids, let's say there was a roller coaster, And they didn't tell you that, you know, in the last month, 15 people have been killed on the roller coaster in all kinds of different ways. You know, so you can't predict, you can't do something to prevent the way you're going to get killed. The car is going to kill you. It's not some behavior thing that got the people killed. The car flew off the track. The car did this. The car did that. So having ignorance, right? You'd go on the roller coaster, right? Because nobody's told you that, oh yeah, you got a pretty, you know, 1 in 10 chance you're going to die, or a 1 in 100 chance. I mean, what would that chance have to be that you're going to get horribly maimed and killed for you to say, fuck it? So if I said you had a 1 in 1,000 chance, right? You know, pretty remote chance, you'd say, there's a roller coaster on Earth that's worth me taking even a 1 in 1,000 chance. There's not a roller coaster on Earth I'd get in. Come on, for a fucking roller coaster ride? Fuck that. So you wouldn't bother. And that's all. That's the only thing that's in the way, is these idiots don't know what they're doing. Okay, forgive them, for they know whatever Jesus said, right? They don't know what the fuck they're doing. All right, I mean, and it's that simple. They're not taking any responsibility for the fact of the risk they're imposing. None. And they're pretending they somehow knew everything would work out okay when they didn't. Okay. Let's see, Barry, if you were going to, let's see, so somehow you have to figure a way to break through the mental barrier if you are going to make a difference. Yeah, so the real point is that somehow you have to make this conversation about some of these realities of imposing, and the fact that especially imposing risk, that is throwing little kids on tight ropes, some sort of analogies, metaphors, that make it clear that whatever you think you're going to accomplish, you're really accomplishing something entirely different. Just like when somebody thinks they're posting my name, it's just some sort of benign, harmless act, when every fact indicates there's no good that'll happen. It won't make anything better. It won't make your arguments better. It won't make my arguments less good. It won't do any of that stuff. All it will do, all right, is incite to create more risk. And once they understand that, then they'll say, yeah, that's stupid. Why would a decent person do that? There's no reason for a decent person to do it. Okay. I would love to see inmendham completely crush at destiny. I don't know who the fuck that is. Rascals are always sociable, and the chief sign that a man has any nobility is in his character, is the little pleasure he takes in others' company. Okay. Just pointing out how Schopenhauer wasn't, you know, it wasn't much of a, yeah, I don't even know what to call it. He's cranky. Finally, someone who speaks the real, raw truth. Thanks, Gary. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. All of them are important, blah, blah, blah. So, no to life, cause it shit. Anyway, you make many great points. I don't know, you might not. When I really started paying attention to what's going on around me, I gotta say the darkest realization was just how unaware and robotic everyone around me is when it comes to reality. Yeah, it is. You watch people, you know, I hear their conversations as they go up and down the street. Well, first it's just the people with the radio so loud inside their cars, and you're just saying, God, how deaf are these people? I mean, they're that fucking deaf. But then when they're talking on the street, you realize, because you could hear some people talk, just their regular conversation goes for miles. You know, it's amazing. But anyway, that's just the minor part. But yeah, I mean, the conversations are inane. You're just, oh, you know, as they're pushing baby strollers, and they're just like, oh man, oh God, oh. I mean, it's just it's such a horrible thought just to imagine being these fucking morons. Oh God, what if I was walking around as one of them? Oh. Such a depressing thought. Anyway, it's as if when you try to pull someone's head out of the sand, they attack you. Yeah, well, you know, they're obviously defensive about the very fact that they are completely ill-informed retards. Anyway, well, there's lots of comments here, but I'm not interested. Personally, I believe that every civilized nation should have a right to die law. Well, of course they should, but that's where civilization has failed, right? But civilizations are protecting religion. You know, they're not fighting for the truth. Okay, cute panda shirt, I suppose. Really was purchased in China, which is kind of funny. It's history. So. It's an actual, you know, just not made in China, but made for China shirt. Gary, there's just no way around it. We're going to have to get you in this message into a bigger platform. Yes, that needs work. It's got to be a way of causing that effect. And I think it's through the physics, frankly. I think the physics will be unstoppable eventually. And once I break that into that meme stream, then I can, you know, obviously meme a lot of other streaming. So I have some optimism that I'll gain something through that mechanism. But who knows? I mean, the barriers are obnoxious in the sense that these faith systems, these religious kooks, really don't want to hear the truth. I'm grateful I wasn't born in North Korea. Okay, I mean, you know, there's lots of places I'm glad I wasn't born. Lots and lots of them. Being illogical is like urinating in your brain. Okay, yeah, I said something like that, didn't I? Make people get a panic attack, uneasy and nervous. They're protecting their nervous system. Well, I don't know. I mean, obviously the truth isn't, you know, I mean, I think most kids even learn that, you know, that the truth isn't going to be a fun thing. Truth is going to be, oh, you have to go to work. Truth is, oh, my wife's going to get old and saggy. Oh, the truth, you know, the truth is always sort of unpleasant. So you do learn that lesson in life. And so if you're going to become aversive to the truth because the truth is always going to be in your way in terms of what's in it for you. But again, it's not very much education. You don't need much of an education to know that this isn't a single player game, as stated so many times. We're not playing a video game where it's all synthetic except for my feelings. Well, then it doesn't matter what's happening in the synthesized game. Clearly the game we're playing is not a single player. And you being empowered by the truth is really important because you're going to be affecting other people, and you can't affect other people with fables. That's being rude. So when you're telling other people they have to live for your values, it's rude. If your values are some kind of silly I love God crap. You know, that's just fucking rude. Anyway, so probably enough of a video. And I will get back to the normal agenda, I suppose. This was a little bit of an abnormal video. Less than normal. Alt normal. Yeah, okay. It's a little bit unnormal. A little bit unnormal. I like that. We'll go with that one. So, till the next time when I'm less unnormal. Language. So, till then, such.